one here. I tell her like, do that duck. You gotta stretch it out, girl, move that duck. She bend it over, touch her toes when she toot that there like hut one, hut two. Girl, who back there? Who back there? I'm back there. I could take a step back and sip my cognac there. Picture. Welcome to the Fantasy Podcast, known as the Twinning Podcast, but not tonight. Barry can't join us. We'll get our special guest in here in a moment. The Best Case Scenario 2019 podcast coming to you live, well, depending on when you listen to it, at 8:20, October 9th. It is a Wednesday. It means that we have officially 24 hours before the Giants do what they do to the Patriots and upset them, although it's going to be hard without the Hall of Famer Eli Manning. But enough about the best team in New York. Many jokes aside on that one. I am Dan Kinlan. As I said, tonight we are joined by a special guest. Unfortunately, given what we have for the podcast, they won't be a live version. You'll be hearing from the commish. The commish's corner will be joining us. We'll give you his recorded podcast in just a moment. Guys, hell of a week there. Week 5 brings us much closer in the standings, and give you a little bit of a preview. Obviously, we'll jump into a lot of the matchups as we always do. I've divided them up, given 3 to Marvin. I'll take 4 myself, but I wanted Marvin to jump in this week to kind of lay down a little bit of what he thinks in terms of surprises for the fantasy season, players as well as teams, and also what his thoughts are on the current state of standings, as well as reiterate a lot of what's going on in terms of trades. I feel like, as Marvin is the commissioner, he is the best one to, explain, maybe elaborate, and remind a lot of people as to what some of the rules are. I know myself, I actually have forgotten about some of them, and one of our league mates there, T-Mac, did remind me at one point about it. Unfortunately, I had to decline a trade because of it. But I think it'll be refreshing for us to hear that. And so I do want to give the commish, without further ado, his time. And here is Marvin Marvelous Horn.
Yo, my fantasy football freaks. You got the commish here coming to you live. Marvelous Marv for a worst case scenario 19. The Kinlans asked me to come out for this week to help out. So you got me in the holster ready to go. All right, let's get it started. Let's first talk about the standings. We got Mr. Blaze up top at 4-1. Currently, we have 8 3-2 teams. It's been really competitive so far to have this many 3-2 teams. 3 2-3 teams, 1 1-4, and 1 defeated team. That would be Mr. T-Mac. Actually, that would be Mr. Jed. Sorry, T-Mac. I was just going from last year. My fault, bro. So some of the surprising teams we got so far. Mr. Mahomey, Mr. Tom, the team without running backs. It's been interesting to see Tom's team so far this year work his way up through the standings, basically with no running backs besides Mr. Chubb. He had Mr. Gallman for 1 week, who had a fantastic week against Justin to get him the W. But I see this team continuing to rise on the backs of Cooper Kupp and Mr. Godwin, Christopher Godwin, and obviously anchored by Mr. Mahomes. Justin's team, I find to be one of the more formidable squads. Just have to talk about the trade for a second, Jed. This is going to be 2 years in a row now that it seems like Justin got the better of another manager. I think we need to start funneling all of Justin's trades through the commissioner, because just something's not going on. Something's not right. Christian McCaffrey putting up 40 points on me last week. Between him and Amari Cooper, that was pretty much it for me last week. So note to 2020, all Justin trades are funneled through the commissioner before they can be accepted. All right, moving on. Besides those 2 teams, I think Big Cat's team is still pretty good. One of the other bigger surprises this year, I think Barry and Dan touched on it last week, is the New England defense. Currently top 5 still in the rankings. like they said last week, it's pretty unprecedented that we have a defense that is this highly ranked in our overall season-long ranking. Drink break. All right, continuing on with some of the bigger surprises. Mr. Austin Ekeler, also on Big Cat's team, ranked number 13 on the year. I still think this dude is going to be very serviceable, even with Melvin Gordon there. He's got a bunch of catches. Phillip Rivers relies on this guy every single week. San Diego defense has not looked too sharp this year, so I have a feeling that Phillip is going to be throwing in a lot of games, and I'm assuming he'll be throwing it to Ekeler. Once he's gone, once Melvin Gordon is gone next year, I think Ekeler will be a very, very good keeper. So Big Cat seems to be hopefully set up good for 2020. Just a quick unowned big surprise this year. Gardner Minshew, ranked number 19 on the year. This guy is balling every week. Throwing it to my next biggest surprise, DJ Chark, who I believe Mace picked up, one of the better pickups of the year so far. We'll talk a little bit about pickups later, but Gardner's got game. Surprising when Nick Foles went down first week of the year, this dude has really stepped up and made Jacksonville at least a competitive team. Who knows who comes out of the 3-2 squads? We got a lot of interesting matchups this week. We got Kamara versus Barkley, Kamara-Barkley versus Tom, 2 3-2 teams. Let's see. We got Action Moore Jackson versus Barry, 2 other 3-2 teams battling this week. And filling the cup, my squad versus Pagula Mula, also 2 3-2 teams going up this week. We'll see how it works out. But I'm very happy with the competitiveness so far this year. Next topic I want to touch on, the trade wagon. It's been very slow this year. Besides the seemingly misguided trade by Jed, there hasn't been too many other transactions this year. I had a discussion with T-Mac about it. It seems like the low balls continue to come in bunches. Not shouting anybody out, but Big Cat, you might be one of those culprits, pal. Hey guys, we've been in this fantasy league this is almost going to be the 10th year, I think, next year. Let's start sending some fair trades out, all right? You can't really get over on people as much as we might have used to back in our high school days, but come on, we're all over 30 for the most part. All right, let's start sending some equal deals. Send multiple trade offers out if you can. Try to get some kind of fair deal by sending out the multiple deals. But let's cut out the low balls, okay? All right. Dan wanted me to touch a little bit on trading. We still haven't had too many trades this year, but just a reminder, first and second round players cannot be traded for draft picks. They can only be traded for actual players without draft picks included. Secondly, only 2 draft picks can be traded total, whether that's one trade or whether that's in 2 separate trades. You can only trade a total of 2 draft picks. Continuing on some of the bigger surprises this year, Will Dissly, one of my favorite pickups of the year. For those of us, not myself, but a lot of managers need tight ends. That was a really good pickup for, I believe, Boudreaux has Dissly. Russ is having an MVP type season, and this guy's soaking up a lot of targets and making good use of those targets. DJ Chark, I already spoke a little bit about him. 6'3", 6'4" profile. Has been the talk of training camp all offseason, and it really seems like he is putting it together for the Minshew and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Darren Waller, had to throw in somebody on my own team for a hot second. Top 5 tight end this year. It's still soaking up a lot of targets in Oakland. I mean, this guy's got moves. He seems like a wide receiver playing tight end. Pretty good pass blocker. I think he'll continue to be a top 5 tight end most of the year. Still waiting for guys like George Kittle to step it up a little bit. Um, Also, Travis Kelce still held without a touchdown this year. I think that's part of the reason why Drew's team is struggling a little bit. Um, so those are some of the pickups in our season long that I found very valuable. Um, Next topic, Sacco. Three guys I got that I think are in the running for the Sacco. Got Jed, T Mac, and Drew. I know Drew is 2-3. He's not doing too bad this year, but he's got one of the lowest points at 458. The only person under that is LJ at 427. It's another person I could throw in for the Sacco race. This team has been kind of hurt, or at least not underperforming all year long. Randall Cobb in the starting lineup. Brandon Cook seems like he's going to be hurt this week. That's a big blow for Drew. The keeper, Nelson Aguilar, hasn't really done much aside for 1 week. Drink break. And Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, this guy we all expected to be a first round talent this year, and he just really hasn't fit the bill in Cleveland. And those 10-1 Super Bowl bets for the Cleveland Browns this year, yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to happen, boys. So that was a waste of a bit of money there. Cleveland just looks very poor, and their offensive line sucks. Defense is getting hurt every 5 seconds. This is a team I expected to at least make the playoffs, but it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen this year. So just refreshing some of that. I'm really happy with the competition this year. I definitely didn't expect Mr. Blaze to be in first after 5 weeks, but if we just look at Blaze's team for a quick second, Matt Ryan is having a decent season. Larry Fitzgerald, the ageless wonder, continues to be great. Derrick Henry every single week, man, this dude is killing, so I don't even think we can call him trash anymore. Who else we got? Chris Thompson is decent. Oh, Blaze is the one with Disley. It's a great pickup, Blaze. I think that could be a potential keeper next year. Sammy Darnold back this week, so maybe that helps Le'Veon's value. Blaze looks like a team that's definitely going to make the playoffs. And maybe depending on how Matt Ryan does, we could be looking at more than just a playoff berth for Blaze. All right, let's go into some of the matchups. I got 3 of them to do here. Bear with me for a second, gentlemen. Let's see what we got. So the first matchup we're going to is Kamara and Barkley versus the Mahomelander. I don't know what the fuck happened with Patrick Mahomes last week. Man, killed my my Survivor hopes for this year. I really thought Kansas City was going to whoop on Indy, but I think Indy continues to surprise everybody this year with their basic but mediocre but decent offense and their pretty solid defense. I think they really surprised a good amount of people. We got Nick Chubb against Seattle this week. That'll be a pretty tough matchup, I think, for Chubb and just Cleveland as a whole. Godwin against Carolina, Kupp against San Fran. I think those will be decent matchups for those guys. I think it's going to come down to the Mahomes this week. Kansas City versus Houston. That should be a shootout game. If Mahomes plays like he played the last 2 weeks, which is maybe 1 touchdown or 0 touchdowns the last 2 weeks, I think it's 1 touchdown, then Tom might be in a little bit of trouble in this matchup. Dan is playing the Hillman, replacing Gallman and Barkley this week. For some reason, I feel like he scores this week, even though New England is clearly the best defense in the league. But if you look at the rest of Dan's team, I think Winston's got a tough matchup against Carolina this week. Cortland Sutton, tough matchup against Tennessee. Robbie Anderson's probably going to do Robbie Anderson things. Golden Tate hasn't done squat so far. Looking like the Mahomes is going to pull this one off this week. Sorry to say it, Mr. Dan Kinlan, but I really, really hope what's his name, Devontae Pettis or Dante Pettis, whatever the fuck his name is not in this lineup once Sunday's lock. But I'm gonna give Tom the victory in this one. I think he cruises pretty easily, honestly here. So we'll have one team moving to 4-2, the other one moving to 3-3. All right, next matchup we got. I still don't understand your name, T Mac. Les Cousins Dangeroso. Is that like a Zoolander reference? I'm not really getting it. Versus Con Me If You Can. So this is going to be an interesting one, just for the fact that me and Justin will be attending the Jets Dallas game this weekend. So Just gets to watch his boy Amari Cooper against the pretty hapless Jets. And currently he's got Chris Herndon in the lineup against Dallas. Not sure if Herndon plays this week, but he could be a decent plug and play if he does. Sammy Darnold needs a tight end, and I think he'll hit up Herndon a lot throughout this game if he ends up playing. Most interesting part to me is the quarterback matchup. Rivers against Pittsburgh and Garoppolo against the Rams. Rivers hasn't been playing good the last couple weeks. I've been wondering if Just is going to replace Rivers at some point. I think if he has a good game, though, I think this matchup definitely goes to Just. I don't think Diggs, Tyler Boyd, and Michael Thomas against Jacksonville is really going to do it for T-Mac this week. Even Westbrook, D.D. Westbrook had a decent game last week, but he's got New Orleans this week. It's a pretty tough defense. Between McCaffrey, Devontae Freeman against Arizona, Cooper against the Jets, and Hopkins in a blow-up game against Kansas City, I think I'm rolling with the Con Me If You Can this week. But shout out for T-Mac to getting his first win last week. Props to you, Timmy. You beat one of the better teams in the league last week. And my little bro Mace, Action More Jackson. So hopefully the good times roll, Timmy. So I'm hoping I'm wrong this week. I hope you pull out the victory. All right, last and final matchup. We got our rivalry matchup of the week. We got the 31-year-old Phenom versus What in the Blaze? Let's check this one out real quick, boys. We got Matty Ryan versus Carson Wentz. I think Matt Ryan absolutely destroys the Cardinals this week, and Wentz has a really tough matchup against Minnesota. What in the Blaze wins that quarterback matchup for sure. Let's see, Thielen, Allison, and Crowder for the receivers for 31 Phenom. Not quite sure about that group of guys. Kind of seems like a ragtag group, except for Thielen. David Johnson might not play this week. So if that happens, I think we clearly got to give this one to Blaze. Melvin Gordon is still kind of waiting to pick it up a little bit. I think he's still working himself into game shape. I doubt he gets the 10 to 12 points he's projected for. Chris Carson will probably have a monster game against Cleveland. But let's go to the other side of the ball. Mike Evans against Carolina. I think Carolina's been an underrated defense this year. I think that's a pretty tough matchup for Mike Evans. I think it's Hollywood Brown against Cincy. That should be pretty favorable. Larry Fitz against Atlanta. I think Kyler Murray will have a pretty good game this week against the pretty much the free space of the Atlanta Falcons defense again this year. Seems like every year they try to improve their defense, but they're just not drafting well, or they're just a bunch of terrible talent scouts. I don't know. Whatever the case may be. I think Dissly scores once, maybe even twice this week for Blaze. Jarvis Landry's playing a lot better, and I really like the Chargers defense against Pittsburgh, because who the hell knows who Pittsburgh is starting this week. Yeah. Got to go with the Blaze this week, boys. So that'll be Blaze moving to 5-1, and Chris moving to 2-4. Let me think. I think that's pretty much it from my end, gentlemen. Again, if anybody has any questions or concerns about trades, too many managers throwing low balls, please hit me up. I want to try to nip that in the bud. You know, this is we're supposed to be in a league. We got a lot of competitive and active managers. Um, let's respect one another and try to send some reasonable trade offers, or else nothing's going to get done until the week before the trade deadline, like it seems like it happens every single year. All right, just remember, first and second round players cannot be traded for draft picks, and you only can trade 2 draft picks throughout the season. All righty, gentlemen. Make sure you tip your bartenders, tip your waitresses, and I'll check you later. Kamish out.
All right, Marvin. Thank you very much, my man. I appreciate you giving your input on what we have here entering week 6. A couple of things that obviously would have come up if we were live. First off, in my opinion, it's Will Disley, not Will Disley or Will Dillsey. You know what? I'm not his mama. I didn't name him. That's what Shaq said. You call him whatever you want. As long as he scores touchdowns for the guy that owns him, you probably call him whatever you want. Clarification on T-Mac's team name. Many people may not have watched Arrested Development, but Les Caisons Dangereux. It's a French film. George Michael becomes really obsessed with it because 2 cousins fall in love. And if you've seen Arrested Development, you currently understand what the team name means. If you haven't seen Arrested Development, then you don't. And I just give props to T-Mac for being able to give us a little hilarity there, because I have seen that show quite a few times. Marvin, thank you for breaking down some of the trade rules. As I said, I forgot about a lot of those. And obviously they're on the website that we can always see. But in terms of my perspective for a lot of the trades, I think the reason why there hasn't been that many is because, again, I said it last week, guys, everybody's in it. Even, I mean, Jed is technically in it in the fact that, like, his record's in it. His team's not really in it. I can give you shit, Jed, because currently you're probably riding on a high because you just got married. So props to you. Last Sunday was pretty fantastic. Jed in a suit. It's pretty great. It's pretty great, guys. So congrats to you, man. A lot of weddings going down in our league here. Previously, obviously, Tom was there for this year, but the reason why I think a lot of trades haven't really come to fruition, or people are trying to lowball some people, is because there's a lot of different ideas about values out there, and that's just really represented by how our draft always comes about. Appreciate you giving us some of your surprises, Marvin, and a breakdown in terms of the standings. It's pretty important, I think, to really give props to Blaze. He's 4-1. And I think that it's very important that, well, obviously that he has the 4 wins. I think it's also very important to recognize his 1 loss, and we can all go to the actual website and check out who that is. So maybe y'all can go do that. You can tell by my hilarity that you know who beat him the first week. Anyways, I'll jump right into matchups and then talk about a couple of different things before we end it out. But I'm jumping into Phil in the Cup, the commish. I said he's going to do my matchup. I'm going to do his. Taking on Pagula Mula. Let's start with Marvin Horn. Russell Wilson was an absolute stud last week. No reason to think that he won't be. But what I find lacking is 2 out of his 3 wide receivers that he's starting. Good job grabbing Auden Tate for Cincinnati off of the waiver wire. MVS, Aaron Rodgers, I don't even really think is even startable. So, I mean, I feel like that's a Hail Mary. Maybe if you're down Monday night when he plays at 8:15, good luck. Ezekiel, it'll be fine. We can move on from that. Having 2 Chargers wide receivers, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, always intrigues me. I think you'd probably be fine against Pittsburgh, but unfortunately what I think is that they're going to run up the score pretty early because I think the defense scores. And I don't see big games coming from them. I see big game coming from some of the running backs. Your Austin Eckler, your Melvin Gordon. So maybe I think it's a low-scoring game for the 2 of them. Well done in terms of getting DK Metcalf. I wanted him myself. I did put a waiver claim in for him. I think DK Metcalf is going to be absolutely fine this week. I think he scores this week. I think moving forward, he'll actually be one of your better flex plays. So even if he doesn't play well this week, I think moving forward, you're going to be great with him. The fact that you're starting the Redskins defense is always interesting, but I do understand why, because you have 3 players on bye. You have Hunter Henry who's hurt and Alexander Madison who doesn't play. So I get your lineup. So might as well throw a dart play there. What's interesting is that if you look across the aisle here to Pagula Mula for Mr. David Seitz, he's playing the Miami defense, who's playing the Redskins. I was wondering which 2 teams would play these 2 teams. The fact that both of you are playing against each other, I think warrants a side bet. I think it warrants a side bet either straight up or based on the spread. That's how I'm going to put it out there. Y'all can talk about it in the group text. Kerryon Johnson had a little coming out party last week. He plays Monday night at 8:15, but he had 125 yards on 26 carries last week, 20 carries the previous week. He's going to get at least that. I think he's actually a pretty good play this week. Ronald Jones, I told you, I think he's the guy moving forward. Everett, the tight end for the Rams. Well, Mr. Gerald Everett had 7 catches and 11 targets, 136 yards last week against Seattle. His snap percentage is about 67%, which is actually pretty impressive. Usually last year it was about more like 40 or 42 from what I've seen. So I like the way in terms of, look, all the tight ends suck. So trying to get a higher snap percentage, I like it. Will Fuller and oh my gosh, Watkins last week. Would you guys score for like 84 points or something like that? Deshaun Watson killed it. I don't expect that, but I do expect quite a high total from this team. I see Pagula Mula taking it over the Kamesh, moving to 4-2. Marvin, you'll fall to 500, as will I. And the reason I say that is because I don't think that I'm going to beat Tom, and I will also give my picks from what Marvin said. I actually think T-Mac's team is going to beat Justin's, and I will agree with the rivalry matchup of the week, giving it to Blaze. So if you were looking for my picks, which you probably weren't, but I will give them to you anyways because this is my microphone tonight. Those are my picks. Mr. White's Wada Wagon, Barry, sitting at 8th place at 3-2 versus Action Moore Jackson at 3-2 as well. In 7th place, currently a 5-point spread. We'll start with the Waddle Wagon. Dak Prescott, he'll be fine. He'll be great. Playing the Jets. 17.64 seems actually a little low. But, and one would only know this if they did the podcast at this time, but I just received an update that Julio Jones may not play. Here he's dealing with a hip injury. Now, whether or not that's actual bullshit, whether or not that's me just throwing that out there to mess with you, a man wouldn't do that. A man wouldn't do that holds himself in high integrity. But what I've seen and what I've trusted from the source that I've gotten is that Julio Jones did not practice today. Again, that's Wednesday. If you don't practice Thursday, you're probably fucked. But Wednesday, maybe you're fine. Moving on, Julian Edelman, I hear he's playing against the Giants. Wouldn't shock me if he doesn't play a lot of snaps. Kind of similar to how I thought about Tyreek Hill last week in terms of you don't need him to play. So he may not play a lot, which is why I'm not liking the 10 points that Yahoo's giving him. Aaron Jones is going to be great. He'll be there Monday night when Barry is losing at that point. You're kind of sensing where I'm going. James White will play Thursday night against the Giants again. Not a guy that will play there quite a bit, I think, if the Giants are losing by as many as we think they will. Again, if you put Eli in, the Giants will win because he's good against the Patriots, but Manuel Jones will be there anyways. The Lizard King, Sammy Watkins. I don't know. I really don't know about him. His season this year is very reminiscent of his entire career. He does well in the very beginning, gets hurt, comes back. He's awesome. He's great. He's not. I'm not sure. What do I do? I don't know, which is why I'm going to leave it at that. Leave that up to yourself. But I do like the Dallas defense that Barry has against the Jets, so I'll give him that. Transition to the other side, as we talked about last week, Action Moore Jackson, Mr. Mason Horn, has the number one player in fantasy, Lamar Jackson. He'll be great against Cincinnati. 0-5. The only concern is that for some reason in the third quarter, he gets cocky. The linebacker forgets his assignment. He makes a pump fake, runs, and then gets hit, and then he's out. But, chasing the points I see with another wide receiver, Demarcus Robinson, I mean, good luck. That's all I can really tell you. But he also has DJ Chark Jr. Marvin talked about him. He'll probably be a top 20 receiver all year. Good for him. Joe Mixon, I actually think he has a great day against Baltimore. And Mark Ingram in that same game, as you can tell. That Cincinnati-Baltimore game is very big for Mace. TJ Hawkinson. Again, a Monday night game. I hope he plays, man. But Matt Breida is where you win this matchup. I've heard quite a good things from the same source that I've heard from Julio Jones. So you can kind of put those two together, see if they don't match up. But Matt Breida tells me that he is going to be the guy this week. That's what I've heard. Could be wrong, but the Seattle defense against Cleveland will do just fine. It's a close matchup until it's not. I'm taking Action Moore Jackson, Mr. Mason Horn. Another matchup, the Daniel Jones era at 3-2, as many of us are, against the defeated Turn Your Head and Goff. And quite frankly, I would like to when I look at this team, but I'll start with them. Jared Goff, quite frankly, if you were on any other team, Jared, you'd probably be helping us all win the league, which is why I think Jed will at some point maybe trade him to a winning team. I would agree with Marvin in terms of the trade you made. Would not have made it. Thought it was pretty unfair. Thought you might have gotten a better draft pick out of it. James Conner will probably be decent this week, but I don't know. Let's talk about it. We got some 9:30 a.m. football this coming Sunday. Talking about Curtis Samuel for Carolina playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I would have started on this if my matchup was in my court, but it's not. And so I would say, hey, guys, either wake up early, wake up late, depending on if you guys have anybody in there. Alshon Jeffrey is a great play for this team. Tyreek Hill and Mr. Damian Williams also play for this team. I want to believe in Jed's team. I really do. But I just don't. Your 99 points are, I think, pretty generous. But if you transition to the other side, if Daniel Jones era, Mr. Daniel McHale, can find a different quarterback, I would advise him to do so. Currently starting Baker Mayfield. You can bench him if you want. It's up to you. It takes 2 clicks from what I hear. Robert Woods, is he through the concussion protocol? I'm not sure. Dalvin Cook is going to run your team this week. But the problem is that, again, I don't know if Todd Gurley is going to be what he's going to be. Todd Gurley is not exactly what you would call cleared to play. And if not all of you have heard this, he's having some issues already. Let's just put it that way. Currently placed at 11.95 points. If he gets half of that, Daniel Jones should be lucky. I consider this the lowest scoring matchup of the week. Let's put it this way. Whoever gets to 85 first will win. And quite frankly, if the New England defense doesn't score 18 points, I'm going to give it to Turn Your Head and Goff. But again, from what I hear, Eli Manning is not playing tomorrow night. So I'm going to give it to the Daniel Jones era. Last matchup of the week, we find ourselves seeing the Black Dogs at 2-3 in 11th place versus G. Golly Kenny at, again, 2-3 in 12th place. A matchup to determine the avenue toward the Sacco. Aaron Rodgers plays Detroit for the Black Dogs. Currently slated at 17.63 points. Again, I don't know. He's droppable, Aaron Rodgers. He just is. And if you don't believe me, if you're sitting there at home or at work listening to this, I can't help but say it. I mean, he's had an average of what? 14 points each week. He's been less than serviceable. He was drafted higher than he should have been. You know a guy that's been drafted higher than he should have been? Unfortunately, the Black Dogs' potential best wide receiver. That's Odell Beckham Jr. Through the first 5 weeks, I'll go week 1 through 5, 7 points, 22 points, 5 points, 2 points, 1 point. And he's going to bye next week. So if he doesn't play out this week, Sounds like a buy low. But also sounds like he just isn't the guy that we all thought he was. And is David Gettleman actually smarter than we think he is? I don't know if I can believe that last statement. But Travis Kelce has also underperformed, which is why this team is also underperformed. Marvin Jones Jr. is also underperformed. Jordan Howard, though, hasn't, which is where you get your boost here. That's where your shot is to win, from what I see. The Black Dogs currently is starting the Chicago defense on a bye, so I assume that he'll be better than that and pick somebody up. But we'll transition to who I'm going to pick to win, which is G. Golly Kenny. Tom, the best Brady that I know, 18.33 points against the Giants. I actually think it's kind of low. He's also got Sonny Michel. Also think it's kind of low at 10 points. TJ Lockett's going to light up Cleveland. I think Michael Gallup's going to light up the Jets. I don't think it's a get-right game for Juju against the Chargers. But it can't be as worse as it was the whole season. Kenny Golladay against Green Bay, I think he'll be fine. Again, New England's going to score a lot of points against the Giants. Mike Nugent's going to be the kicker there. The only problem with this team is the fact that he's starting New York Giants defense. I think you just bench them, play without a player, and still beat and go into 3-3, 500 territory. I go G. Golly Kenny against the Black Dogs. Guys, that was all of our matchups to date. I'll say it again, as Marvin did, let me know if you can actually do something. Wednesday at 8 o'clock continues to be the best time for me in terms of a podcast. I would love to have anybody or anyone who wants to actually do it. Even if you guys say, hey, listen, the two of us want to do it. You guys hook up and you want to do it. Please don't actually hook up because that would be, different because most of you have girlfriends. But, this is the podcast I want to keep going because our league is pretty special from what I see. So a little bit shorter in terms of a podcast, but as always, what I want to do is give you the Survivor Football update if you've been listening this long. So again, like I said, it's actually kind of tough to figure out which team is which, but my team I know is in, and Love Me Sexy is also in, and my champion pick set is also in. Again, if you're not playing, it seems pretty obvious to actually pick on that team and see the actual person whose team it is, but it doesn't let us do that. So I would like to say that this is also the very furthest we've gone in a number of years. But there's a couple of teams I may lose this week. So, guys, as always, give your feedback. Good luck this week. Obviously, unless your name is Tom, good luck this week. And, hit your boy up. We'll try to get you guys up on this podcast. And as always, make sure that you tip your bartenders and tip your servers, as Mr. Commissioner said. Dan Kinlan, out.